Welcome to Managed Data Gateway Refresh. So there's different types of data refresh based on the data source type. For automatic refresh for content such as SaaS providers, it's typically refreshed once a day. Files uploaded from Microsoft OneDrive or Microsoft SharePoint is refreshed every hour, but can be overwritten. Live with direct query, there's really no need to schedule refreshes because data is always synced to the data source. So data sources like that are Microsoft Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, Azure HD Insight, as well as SaaS. Nevertheless, you do want to perform scheduled refreshes on data such as SQL Azure Database, SQL Server On-Prem, which requires a gateway, files stored in OneDrive, sometimes SharePoint based on your needs, and Excel files that are on-premise. To access the gateway, what you want to do is first click on the ellipsis, settings, and then manage gateway. But before you do that, you want to make sure that your data is in the cloud and your gateway is installed and configured in your environment. Once you click on that, what you do is navigate to this page, and then you have the ability to create data sources under your gateway. As you can see here, is the data source name, the data source type. There's many data sources that are available, which we'll see in the demo soon. In this case, we show SQL Server, so there's a need for the server name, as well as the database name, as well as authenticated method, which is Windows, username and password. You do have single sign-on options, but in this case, we're using single sign-on as well as Kerberos. So let's go and look at a demo. As we can see here, there's an error for refreshes. So to fix that error, what we're going to do is click on the ellipsis, then go to settings, and then we can expand data gateway connection. And we can see that it's not configured. We can click this button right here to configure one data source. As you can see here, I have a couple of data sources that are already connected, but there's one that's missing. So we can click on the ellipsis here and then add a data source. You add a data source name. And then as we can see under file, you need a path, the Windows username, as well as the password. We got SharePoint here where you would need a hyperlink, the authentication method, as we saw earlier. And then of course, with SQL, you will need the server, database, and authentication method, all right? I'm gonna discard this. And then I'm gonna go back to the data source. So let's say that I do not remember the path to that file, which is definitely important to remember that name. Power BI is smart enough to actually pick that up. So I'm gonna go to settings again. We're under US Sales Analytics, expand gateway connection. And this time around, I'm gonna click on this button right here to view the data sources. I can map to existing ones that I already created, but I'll do that later. But for right now, I'm gonna focus on this one. I'm gonna add a gateway here. As we can tell, it automatically picked up the file location. I'm going to add a name here. Yes, it's the file type. Yes, that's the path. Enter in a username. And then enter the password in. And if everything's correct, it will automatically test this connection. If it's not correct, it will give an error. You can also skip the test connection, but I don't like doing that because I always want to know if this connection is going to work. So I'm just going to click add. and everything's perfect. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just go back to the data connection, and then I'm going to map all these to their respective location. And then I can just apply. I can also add in the credentials if I desire to. Right now, I'm just going to click apply. And then we're good to go. In this case, I'm going to go back to the workspace. I can do a refresh here. It's basically refreshing that data set. It's taking a little while because it's moving through those different data sources, those different databases. But as you can tell, once that's done, that error is now gone.